All right, now in this part of the tutorial, we are going to create our statements that we want to send to the LRS when people interact with these note cards. So what you want to do is open your file, and you can do this in Storyline 3 or 360, it doesn't matter. And we are going to add our execute JavaScript triggers onto these note cards. Now, you can add XAPI statements on a lot of things. You can do it on click, you can do it on hover, a lot of actions. But just for today, we're doing it on click. It's essentially the same way that you would do it for anything else that you want to trigger a statement to send to the LRS with. So let's go ahead and do this with our note card 1, and then I'll do it with note card 2, and we'll stop there, and then you guys can do the rest on your own. So what I want to do is I want to have my note card highlighted here, and then over in the triggers panel, I create a new trigger, and the action is execute JavaScript when user clicks on note card 1. Now you're going to want to press on this little more button here, and I'm going to give you this JavaScript in the post for this, so don't worry about that, but I'm going to put that in here right now. So what this is going to do is it's going to send a statement that I have already written, and it's going to send it over to the LRS. Now I'm going to talk to you a little bit about creating this statement. So what you want to do is you want to think about this as a sentence, and everything needs to be grammatically correct in this sentence for it to work, or else it's just going to break. So the first part in our statement here has to be a URL, and best practice is to use a URL that has your verb in it, or a URL that you can make this up and it can have the verb in it, or you can point to a URL that exists that kind of gives like a definition of what your verb is. Really, this can be anything. I can change it from example.com to thingamabob.com. It doesn't really matter what it is, but it's best practice just to do that. So what I've done here is I have just written this URL, and it says experienced. And so in best practice, if you did have this linking to a definition, it's so that everyone on your team knows what experienced means and how we use it. So that's what that's for. The next piece, and these are all separated by a comma until you get to the end, and they're all in quotes. The next piece is the verb. So you want to go to ADL's verb site and look up verbs that you can use. For this instance, we're using experienced. All the verbs are past tense, and you have to use the verbs that are given to you, or else you're going to have to do a little tiny bit of coding to add in your own verbs. So for this example, we're just going to use one that exists. So we'll use experienced, and you can see it's in quotes and has a comma. The next piece is going to be the ID. So the ID also needs to be a URL. And typically what you want to do is name it something that you're going to understand what it is. So it has to be unique to the statement itself. So if I create another statement, I can't use this exact same one. So this one's called Note 01 because it's tied to this one. So I just did it off of like what the actual description is. You can see also another comma. And then you want to put in your description of what it is. So I have Note 01 in here as my description, and then I have a longer description that's after that that states what it's for. So it's Note 01 in the NoteCake interaction. And if you go back to my Yet Analytics LRS, you can see, if I pull it up real quick and scroll down, oops, wrong one. You can see down here it says this tester has experienced Note 02 in the NoteCake interaction, and I can download that to a CSV, and for me that makes sense. It might not be the perfectly written statement, but that's something that really your team should decide how your statements are written and really dive into constructing a statement more. So we've got our first statement in there, so we're good to go on that. I'm going to press OK and click OK. Now, what we might want to do is move this trigger up so it's the first in order. So it's going to execute the JavaScript when you click, and then it's going to show the Note 01 layer. So that's just a good best practice to have. Now I'm going to copy this trigger that I have here, and I'm going to paste this onto Note 02, and we're going to tweak it a little bit so that it matches. So I'm going to go ahead and paste. I'm going to move it up just like I did with Note Card 01. And I'm going to go into here. So because it's the same interaction, we're just going to keep the same statements for consistency. So I'm going to say Note 02 on there and Note 02. So you have to change the Note 02 here and the Note 02 here. And then we are good to go. Those are the only two things that really need to change in this one because it does make sense. We're still in Notecake interaction, so that's fine with this. I'm going to click OK. So now I'd like you guys to go ahead and test out doing on Note Card 03 and Note Card 04 on your own, and then we'll come back. All right, great. So I hope you all have your statements set up on Note Card 03 and Note Card 04. Next up, what we are going to do is we're going to publish. Now this is a little bit tricky because you would think that when you go to publish, so let's go to publish here, you would think that you would want to publish for Tin Can API down here. But that's not the case. We have created our own custom statements. What this Tin Can API does is it fills in the statements for you, and it doesn't let you pick what statements you want to send. So we're not going to do that. Don't touch it. Don't go into the LMS panel. What we're going to do is we're going to go to web. So make sure you're in this web panel here, and we're just going to publish as is. In fact, actually, we're going to just publish for HTML5 because we don't want any of that Flash nonsense. You can have Flash, but then you either have to do extra stuff to the other file because you're either launching Flash or HTML5. But let's not worry about that. Let's just pick one because that's going to make it easier. HTML5 only. So I'm going to go ahead and publish this. So we're close to getting done. This is going to be awesome, you guys. So after this publishes, the next step that we're going to do is we are going to get the files that we need to add to this storyline project to make everything work.